the question that gets often asked is, archaeologists have been searching ancient Israel and the surrounding areas in Egypt and so on, and we just don't have evidence of biblical stories, whether it's the exodus of Egypt or their entry into the land or this or that or the other. So I think there's quite a few things to say. First of all, I think there's a lot of misconceptions there. There's actually quite a significant amount of archaeological corroboration of huge amounts of the Bible. But one of the most important points is, it's an older adage in archaeology that absence of evidence is not necessarily evidence of absence. Archaeology is digging, trying to find the sites, trying to see, what do we see here? You're often just one find away from upturning huge amounts of archaeology. There's so many examples of this, right? They used to always say that Greeks were the great goldsmiths and the Scythian groups learnt it from them. And then you find one find of Scythians that have gold making before the Greeks, and you flip everything on its head. Or the fact that, at least when I studied this quite a few years ago, there wasn't yet a complete list of governors, Roman governors of Britain. Now, we know there were Roman governors in all those periods. We just didn't have a list of all their names. So, Troy, right? Until 1870s, it was assumed Troy is just some mythical... And then some German who believed, no, the story must be true, called Schliemann, goes there and finds it in Akkad, ancient Akkad, the capital of the Akkadian Empire, we still haven't found. So there's large amounts of things missing. But perhaps one of the most telling stories happened in biblical archaeology in 1993 and 94. The story is this. Up till that point, there was a big school, there still is a big school of archaeologists called the Minimalists. And part of the point is there's absence of evidence. There's no reference to him, not in ancient Israel, not in surrounding civilizations. And then in 1993, my great aunt was there. This is actually quite personal. Her name's Hanny Hirsch, and she was at a dig in northern Israel in Tal Dan. And the head of the dig was a guy called Avraham Biran. And it's always a great rule in archaeology that your best find is almost always on the last day of the dig. So I think the way she describes it, the way I remember her describing it, they're walking out and the sun's setting and they're going to leave this site for... And some guys stay, so someone's staying behind, and they notice the angle of the sun. They can see something they haven't been able to see, and it looks like some writing. And they call everyone back, because writing in ancient, you find writing on ancient dig, that's gold, right? Tells you what's going on here. And they start clearing, and as they're clearing, they can already see. This is referring to Beit David, the house of David. Turns out it's written by a conquering king who's talking about how he's destroyed various Judean Israelite kings, but he refers to them as the descendants, as this kingdom is the house of David. That's how they all referred to it. They knew back then of an ancient King David and his lineage. And that's actually beautiful, not just from a perspective of corroborating the Bible, because it's so deep in our history and so deep in who we are. And you can touch at least references to so many of our figures of history and the biblical text in stones today.